Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terabant Leadership. Welcome to today's leadership episode where we are going to be talking about America. Eventually, it's going to go to war with China and America will initiate it. There's a lot of topics we could do about China. We're going to focus it on internally, meaning America, and we're going to focus on two individuals, one more than the other. One is Tucker Carlson, interesting individual, and the other is Joe Kent, who's recently resigned. And what I want to do is show you, remember I keep saying it, I've said it, and I wrote this in the book. And the reason why I say I wrote this in the book is if you write something down in a book, it's very difficult for you then to change your mind. You can, but the point is when you write it down and it's officialized, that's pretty strong. And the point is, what did I say? The number one threat to America is domestically, the American globalist government, the American globalist corporation. That is the biggest threat without a doubt. In terms of foreign threats, though, I stayed the same thing I said when I was in the FBI back in 2004. It would be China. But again, they're not the biggest threat. It's from domestically. But what I also want you to do is focus on this person, Tucker Carlson and Joe Kent, that's happening here. And that is, any person with common sense has got to be looking at my situation and say, something is very off with this David Baumblatt situation. We're going to assume he's telling the truth. He's a U.S. citizen and military veteran. And he's saying he's on the FBI terrorist watch list. He's not welcome back in America. His passport's been flagged. And it's complete radio silence across the board, from politicians to social media to censorship. Something is off. And what do I keep saying? When you push against this system, I'm telling you, you're going to feel the pain. Now, again, if you're a nobody and you push against the system, you might not feel any pain. Why? Because they don't view you as a threat. But what you're going to see are two people, Joe Kent, and I said it many times, my feeling of military veterans, thank you for your service. I know it's dog shit now, I know, but still, you would at least think a guy like Joe Kent, a military veteran, that other military veterans would come to his aid. We're splitting, I've said that many times. So he's attacked by military veterans. Then we've got a guy like Tucker Carlson, where back during Tucker's days on Fox News, I mean, I thought he was okay. I guess above average. I don't know. Living in China, I wasn't really watching so much. Donald Trump was definitely sparked my attention when he ran. But anyway, as Tucker Carlson has aged through the years, his rhetoric has changed, and he's become much more interesting to me or you or whatever. He's being attacked. Now, one of the things I would always like to say is, when people say he's changed and people say he must be getting paid from the Middle East, or David, he must be getting paid by China when I speak, I say also a lot of negative things about China. Let's face it. I've also said, I don't think any of the Chinese should ever become an American citizen. But anytime we live in this world that if you say anything politically incorrect or out of the mainstream, they must get paid, they must this or that. Maybe it's possible that people get educated. I'm probably one of the most educated people you've met. Now, it is true, I believe that university academia is overrated. I have 4 master's degrees. I think about 4% of the American population has 1 master's degree. And I admit, I think university is overrated, but it still just shows I definitely like to learn. I speak 3 different languages. I lived in Europe. I'm living in Asia, born and raised in America, in the government. I have a lot of experience. And so what the point is when you get educated, you would think it's kind of like you have a son. Hey, Shane, good morning to you, brother. It's sort of like if you had a son and the son went to West Point and you said, okay, son, going to West Point, I'll see you later in 4 years. For some reason, you don't want to see him. And he comes back and he's exactly the same. Wouldn't you be disappointed with West Point or, whatever, going to Harvard, or maybe your son goes to Ranger School and he said, Dad, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. And he comes back and he's exactly the same. You'd be a little disappointed. You'd be like, aren't you improved? So through education, through experience, we should change, hopefully from the positive versus the negative. So what has that done with China? It's changed me. Now, when I say we're going to begin the videos, but I want you to know, if you hear anyone speaking about China that's different than me, ask them, who are they? Are they a China? I've said many times, one, I probably have more Chinese experience than anyone in the United States government. I've not said that about the private sector. It depends. But I would also say be very careful. This guy is a Fox News guy named John. I would be very careful about Chinese Americans. It is what it is. They still have a loyalty to their people. There's a different scheme going on with them. But the point being is in the private sector, absolutely. There are people that know more about China than me. In the government, nah, none. I'm telling you, my time in the government, it was, I should tell stories about it. Some of it could be classified, but it's overrated. So if you hear, David, I heard from this person about China. What the fuck do they know about China? Literally. Now, Sean Ryan, interesting, I should have brought him up. He had a Naval Academy grad on his show, Sean Ryan. He was part of the group that I said. He was in Shanghai. I still know more about China than him. Why? Well, I mean, first, it helps if you speak the language. He speaks another language, and he was only living in Shanghai. I think he was in China for about 4 years or something. He was one of the guys in the group. He was on, I should tell him, but he was on Sean Ryan's guest list, and he's a former Naval Academy guy living in China. Interesting enough, though, the stories that he said in China, it got me laughing. He's on it, but he still doesn't know as much about China than me. So I want you to know that we talk about China because I'm telling you, this war in Iran, whatever, eventually we are going to get to China. And when I say we, I mean more America. The war machine, meaning the American empire war machine, it's going to go on the offensive, which it always does. And there's going to be a collision course with China. But again, I mean, you do what you got to do, America, because one, I don't pay my tax money for this bullshit, and I'm not serving in the military. So you also got to remember all these MAGA influencers or politicians, one, they're not going to die in this war. Their kids are not going to die in this war. And when your taxes go up and inflation goes down, you're not going to be the ones making money off this war. They will, meaning only a very small percentage of people are going to be making money off these wars. Just like Trump's son invested heavily in drone warfare. But if you're the typical American, you might get drafted or your kids in the military, they're going to die, and your tax money is going to come up in the US dollar. So I'm not affected. You want to do it, have a blast, but we'll go. Let me see Shane here. A lot of my favorite stories are the most embarrassing ones, people just being shitbags, points out. It really is. I mean, I got to think of a story. It's, oh man, I want to see if I could say this. It's bad. Hollywood does. And now remember, when I left the FBI, I have never said anything negative because you got to use common sense. The more negative I say, especially the most prestigious thing I've done in my life is graduating West Point. So when I say disparaging comments about West Point's overrated, horrible leadership, FBI's bonehead, this and that, I'm actually disparaging myself. So I never wanted to do this, and I've never done it. But Hollywood does an amazing thing with the Jason Bourne identities. But I mean, I was working a cold case with a CIA agent girl, and probably a diversity hire. I'll go into it. And we were going over some basic elements of China and Chinese. And I was thinking to myself, how the fuck did you get into the government? But you got to remember, use common sense. And I've said this before. I've always said this. Why we're back in the 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s, those FBI agents, those CIA agents, those guys were top notch. Because you got to ask yourself, how was the private sector back then? It might have been a little bit better, but not much. Because the FBI and the CIA are considered to be criminal. Look at Dan Bongino. And there's a video of him. What an absolute fucking shitbag. He was the deputy director. I mean, you got to use, as much as I say the FBI is overrated, I mean, the deputy director, no, so, I was a regular special agent. The deputy director, and we're also including money, the power, the prestige. Why did he quit? All about the money. He's like, man, I'm doing this talk show, podcast. Meaning, what would Dan do to the audience member? What if he wasn't a podcast hoster making millions of dollars? I guarantee he'd stay in the FBI. Guarantee. Remember, most men, part of the reason I quit the FBI is I was telling my friends, I knew thousands of Americans are lined up in their application process to take my slot because my heart wasn't into the FBI. I was like, this is not a good fit. I want out. And I told my fellow colleagues in the FBI, a few of them, it was kind of kept secret. And I said, I know right now there's thousands of American citizens who would, whatever, give their left nut for this job to be an FBI. I know it. And I said, it's the right thing for me to do to resign, get out. I was a regular agent. Dan Bongino, the deputy director, the number 2. I want you to ask yourself, if he was a regular yo-yo, not a multi-million-dollar podcaster, what do you think he would have done? I don't think he would have quit. Don't think he would have quit. And this guy brags, unlike other people, he's a patriot. The FBI was corrupt. He's going to fix the FBI. There's a clip of he's an absolute piece of shit. And so what I'm saying is I go back to the story about it's so overrated. The best and the brightest are not in our government. Maybe 1%. I'd say without a doubt, the top 1% of the FBI and the CIA, rock stars, everything else goes down. Because think about it. If you had a son and you're like, my God, son, you are unbelievably smart. You are unbelievably courageous, high testosterone, and you are a risk taker. This is kind of what America was formed on. Think of our forefathers who left Europe, took courage. They all had to be smart. And, talking about and hard work, so you have to be smart, hardworking, and risk taking. That's what our American forefathers were. If you had a son that was like that and he said, Dad, and you say, son, you are really smart, you are really hardworking, and you're a risk taker. What do you want to do, son? Dad, I want to make a career in the government. Do you really think that aligns? Do you? Remember the story I said with the West Point guy who went into the CIA 9/11, but he's working for Goldman Sachs and he's quit? It's not there. And so the point being is it's just absolutely embarrassing. So I say again, when it comes to China expertise, absolutely there are people in the private sector. I'm not saying many, but they are above me. In the government, no way. No, who are these people? Literally, who are these people? Not there. So anyway, so when we talk, because we're going to be talking about China today, so when these people talk about China, who the fuck are you, these people? They don't know anything. So let me go down. Let me just go with the first thing here. Let's do share the screen. And the one thing is this guy, Graham Allen. I don't know if you know this guy, Graham Allen. So supposedly he's a military veteran. Graham knows about me. Thanks for the help, Graham. But what I want you to do is look at what Graham is saying. He stands with President. He stands with Ban Bongino. He stands with Erica Kirk. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these people, by the way. He rejects the whole woke Reich. I guess that would be me. Like I'm like Adolf Hitler and I'm a neo-Nazi. That's fine. It doesn't bother me. And he also rejects the doomers, which I guess I would be in both of these groups. Meaning I believe America's going to go to collapse, and I don't have a problem with fascism. Let's put it that way. And he's like, the real MAGA is here. Well, guess what? Just think about it. Just the fact that he needs to remind us, MAGA's splitting people. It's splitting. It's going to happen, like it or not. It's splitting. Let's go on to something else here. So this guy is Cat Turd. Now, this guy is a major MAGA political influencer who also knows about me, totally ignored me. But notice what people are saying. What happened to Tucker Carlson? What happened? And what do I say? He got educated. I'm telling you, what did I say? The 3 biggest things that changed my life in terms of education. One would be my father, which makes sense. I think your childhood, every child's childhood, for the good or for the bad, is going to have a big influence. And I look at it as a positive. My father had a very positive influence. After that, military. I mean, West Point, I've said many times, I graduated Harvard. I used to put West Point on a pedestal. I don't really put West Point on a pedestal anymore, but it is what it is. It was the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. West Point, the military. And the third is China. And what does that mean? You get educated. If you look at my resume, I am not the typical American, what I've done and what I've seen. But you got this guy, Cat Turd, who's looking at Tucker Carlson. And it's true. Tucker has changed. And they're like, what happened to him? He must be a spy for Iran and making money. I don't know. Maybe Tucker's gotten educated. Is that a possibility, you dumb fucking Cat Turd? That I've been asking you for help as a military veteran, you don't care? Now, some people could say, hey, David, I think this military veteran thing is just between me and military veterans. Like I'm a bad apple. Oh, really? You don't think these military veterans will throw other military veterans under the bus? Like I said, we're splitting. Well, let's take a look at this here. Let's go to this right here. Oh no, let's go. No, it's another one. It's another one. Let me go to this right here. I think this is interesting right here. So here we come. We have Robert. Hopefully everyone can see this. 1 second. So here we have Donald Trump. Now, these are pretty strong words. Oh, by the way, Robert Mueller was also a military veteran, but I get it. I get the whole FBI. Now, remember, I quit the FBI and I wrote, well, let's just see what I said. I said, I left the FBI in 2007. And I wrote, and he's a traitor scumbag, this guy, Chuck Grassley. How this guy is still taking a paycheck by taxpayers' unbelief. And I told him exactly this, what was going on. So Robert Mueller was my director. It is what it is, whether he knew it or not. And look at Donald Trump. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, notice I keep saying America's splitting. You have a president. Look at this. You have the president. Hopefully everyone gets. You have the president of the United States. This doesn't surprise me. And the FBI director, who also happens to be a military veteran. He was a former Marine Corps. I don't know if he was an officer or enlisted, but Robert Mueller was former Marines. He died. And again, I admit it. I think the FBI is corrupt. That's why I quit. And the president says, good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer. These are not normal words. I'm not saying I disagree with Donald Trump, but what am I saying? The system is going to fall apart, people. This is not normal because all Americans are trying to figure out, where is that group that comes together? Well, the military guys, none. We can't even come together as Christians. I don't even know what a Christian is anymore. I'm telling you, that's what you keep saying about China's the threat. The only thing China needs to do, and they continue, is just sit the fuck back because China does not know how to do soft power. I've said this many times. You got to go back one. They don't know how to do soft power. That's why they get white monkeys. Not me. I'm not working for them. Oh, but I will. I have no problem working for the Chinese government. People work for the Canadian government. Well, what? There's a rule I can't. But the point being is they actually need to get white monkeys to help them out because they don't know. I cannot tell you how the best way to look at the Chinese is like a fish out of water. In China, no problemo. Outside of China, they don't know what they're doing. But they don't need to do any soft power. When America is just falling apart overseas, meaning making wars, and domestically, the only thing China really needs to do is sit back. This is a sinking ship. But I'm just saying, if you just saw the president of the United States say basically a military veteran, the former FBI director, good, he's dead. That's not normal. And it's not like I'm defending Robert Mueller. I left in 2007 under Mueller, and I wrote, the person that I also say should be fucking dead is Chuck Grassley. What a piece of shit. How that old fart senator is still making a paycheck. I'm still amazed. Not only did I write him in 2007, he didn't respond. And I was like, I didn't care. I was like, fine. But then when I come out here recently, I bombarded Senator Chuck Grassley. Hello, totally ignored me. Total piece of shit, this guy, Senator. But let's keep going on this stuff. So now we go to Donald Trump. This war in Iran is going to go to shit. So now he's like, now with the death of Iran, and I was like, okay, I guess we wrapped it up. You know what I think? Hopefully everyone can see that. This is what he's saying. And what do I think that Donald Trump may do? He might do this. He might do two things. He might escalate this war with a ground force. Oh, good luck on that. Like I said, I'm just happy I'm not in the military anymore. These soldiers there's going to be some body bags coming out. And I wouldn't thank any of these military veterans for their service. Killing the Iranians, it's not helping me. But anyway, two, he might, out of the blue, just like we bombed Iran before, he might just say, Laura, like, okay, mission accomplished, and we're going to pull out because there's no ground troops. And people are going to be like, okay, well, what exactly was the objective? And I guess we're just going to do we're going to do an annual bomb run on Iran, meaning we'll never be able to take out their nuclear capabilities. So I guess every year it'll be, whatever. It's the 3rd of March. It's the annual Bomb Iran campaign. And maybe every year we're just going to bomb them to just keep them down. But it's possible Donald Trump may say, victory has been achieved. We've bombed the shit out of them and we destroyed enough. And we're going to pull out. Again, though, we spent a ton of money in there, but at least no troops are on the ground so we can pull out. Be prepared for that. And of course, MAGA will say complete victory. And it's like, okay, but I'm telling you, if you're an American citizen and you're traveling overseas, these bombing campaigns, which is called a war, you better be careful. It's going to come back to you. I don't know what the objective was. Let me go. I'll read the comments in a second. Let me just go to this one here. Now, I'm not a fan of Bill Riley. And this is something interesting. You know who's a fan of China? Bill Riley. But we're different. Bill Riley is a piece of shit globalist. He is and along with his buddy Lindsay. So he's already said, because Bill and I are different. I am a nationalist. I look at my people first. And when I say my people, I look at that as a homogeneous adjective. I don't look at Americans as my people. I don't know who an American is. This piece of shit looks at his money. And he said this on talk shows. He's like, listen, we have no choice. We have to do business with China. So he believes we have to continue to not do a war, work for China, only about the money. That's not necessarily my view on it. But either way, this ship is going to sink. You're going to see it. But Bill O'Reilly and Lindsey Graham, yeah, great globalists. We have traitors from within, people. Traitors from within. And you want to know how much I know Bill O'Reilly is such a piece of shit? We got 2 more and I'll read comments. Look what Bill O'Reilly puts up next on X. I mean, it's like, it's a never-ending story. Here we go with Bill O'Reilly. And he talks, how many ignore the danger of Iran? He thinks bombing. And guess what? Oh, my God, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis are back. Adolf Hitler and the Nazis are back. Let me tell you something, Bill, you dumb fuck. First of all, you, along with every people, don't even probably know what really happened in World War II, the Nazis. And if you like China, guess who China likes? They love Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. And I'm telling you, this guy, Adolf Hitler, is going to become immortal. It's like everything we do, it's back to Adolf Hitler. It's back to the Nazis. I mean, it's going to be like in 500 years from now, someone's going to be like, you can't do that because that was Adolf Hitler or something. And they're going to say, Adolf who? Adolf Hitler, man. There, people have got no clue who Stalin is, no clue who Winston Churchill is, no clue who Truman is, Roosevelt, Eisenhower. But this guy, Adolf Hitler, is going to be immortal. I'm sick of this shit because I'm telling you, I go to China, they like fucking Adolf Hitler. They look at Adolf Hitler as a good leader. They look at fascism, National Socialism, as the natural order. But I'm telling you, I am so tired of these fuck faces in America. Every time they want to throw back Adolf Hitler, throw back the Nazis. And I just want to say 2 things. 1, we don't know the truth, so shut your fucking mouth. Just like you don't know what's going on in China, Billy Bob. You don't know you don't know what's going on with Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. That whole history, same thing. We don't know what's going on in Iran, 9/11. But this whole thing about throw Adolf Hitler again, it doesn't bother me anymore. Doesn't bother me. So anyway, let's go. Finally, let's just look at this. And remember, I keep saying about how Dan Bongino is such a piece of shit. Remember how many people when I first talked about Dan Bongino, everyone's like, David, no, man, Dan Bongino's a patriot. He would help you. He just doesn't know about you. No, you stupid fucks. He does know about me. He's a piece of shit. This guy. So now, remember what I said about the military is splitting? I don't know who this guy is. I've heard I don't know all these influencers yet. There's a whole microcosm and macrocosm of influencers here and there. But this influencer is a former policeman, a former law enforcement for 9 years. Danny Boy was former Secret Service, and they're fighting. And guess what I'm saying? The U.S. military is splitting. Guess what? Even law enforcement, even the FBI, there's no longer brotherhood. So let's go back to Danny Bongino, who's an absolute piece of shit. Let's see what they said with this guy.
You're a pedophile protector. A pedophile protector. Pedophile protector. I was a cop for 9 years. You're
So the guy said, I'm a cop for 9 years. He's one of these influencers. I'm forgetting his name, but Dan Bongino's a piece of shit.
You're a pedophile protector, faggot. You're a pedophile protector. Fuck
No, she says faggot.
you, dude. Fuck you.
Fuck you. I'm telling you what I'm trying. Well, I'll do the comments, then we'll start the video. But I'm telling you, you keep worrying about China. We're falling apart in America. And what's interesting is you have these globalists. They're so concerned about China, about the freedom of the Iranian people. And there could be an American military veteran homeless in America, starving. And these same fucking people that are so concerned about overseas bullshit, that same American military veteran could say, could you help me? Don't give a shit. Don't care. What I'm trying to tell you is our biggest problem is domestic. That doesn't mean we need to look. I'm not a big fan of having China use Huawei in America. There's a lot of defensive measures that you could take with China. I've said many times, the strongest measure you could take with China is not to allow the Chinese to immigrate to America and become a U.S. citizen. If you would impose that, they know it. That is their China's secret weapon, along with other countries, is they're able to infiltrate the West because we live in a liberal society. But so there's defensive measures you could take against China, defensive, not offensive. But the main problem is we're falling apart in America. We don't know who we are. MAGA's going to split. Let me start the video. Let me just see if there's any, let me read some of your comments here. If I go through, if I can't get it 20 years, my life got to swim on working at the same John Deere. Yeah, what I'm saying is this thing with Donald Trump about bringing jobs back, the tariffs, give it time. You also got to remember, Trump was president for one entire term. It's going to be really quick where Trump's, meaning his 2-year points up. So meaning he's 50% finished with this term. So he's been in office for 4 years. He's almost about 50% done this term. What is this envision? Make America great. It's just not going to happen. I'm telling you, I still believe he's the best we have, but he's never going to solve it. I'm telling you, it's never going to happen. And he is drifting. Just like Tucker Carlson is drifting, I believe Tucker Carlson has become more educated. Donald Trump is drifting in a direction that is not nationalism. Anyway, let's go. So remember what I said about the military veterans? We don't give a fuck about each other. And you might say, David, I think they're just talking about you because you're a bad apple. Oh, really? Okay, let's talk with this guy.
From every political party, go to them, go to your representatives and say, I will not, in good conscience, send young men and women off to die on foreign battlefields. Our leaders will hear us if we all speak out. We're at a critical juncture in the war in Iran. We need to let our leaders hear that we do not support this war. We do not think there's a vital national security interest. We want to bring our troops home. We want to work towards peace in that region. We do not want 20 plus more years of bloodletting. And then as we head into this next election cycle, demand from everyone, from every political party, go to them, go to your representatives and say, I will not vote for you if you are going to vote for the continuation of these wars overseas.
Okay, so we've all heard that. Now remember, I guess there was stuff behind closed doors. Maybe he leaked stuff. He's under investigation. He was going to get fired. Those are good points to know. But I'm just doing 2 points. One, what he's saying, I'm in total agreement with. These wars. The second, I get it. He's a military veteran. I guess I should be his brother, not. I'm wishy-washy on that, but we should. But the point is now let's hear what people think, because he is a decorated military veteran, and what he's saying, I think's right. Now, if he leaked classified stuff and whatever, it's very important. But I just focus on what message he's saying. I can't seem to argue with it. He is a military veteran. I don't know. I don't know if it means anything anymore, but at least MAGA says it means something, like we should respect him or something. Let's see what people say.
For only one reason. But some guy who worked in counterterrorism resigns on really official-looking letterhead and then goes on a podcast tour today. And it was the biggest.
Now, I'm pretty sure this piece of shit guy never served in the military. You know, it still bothers me, people who didn't serve in the military talking shit like that, but it is what it is.
Story in America for only one reason, because the left could use it against Donald Trump. That's it. That's why you keep hearing
Oh, so you ever hear these dumb fucking people? It's the left, it's the right. I'm telling you, if you ask you want to unite the American people, ask them what they think about the American globalist corporations. You'll find pretty quick how to unite the American people. You know, meaning I've said many times, I agree. People on the left would look at me as an absolute white supremacist, neo-Nazi. I get it. But I'm telling you, if we really want to unite the left and the right, talk about these globalist fucking elites. We're talking the money, these corporations, these globalist banks. But these stupid fucking podcasters who work for these corporations, they're always like, it's all about the left, man. It's all about the left. No, it's not, asshole. You work for these corporations. But anyway, let's keep going. Let's hear what he says.
About Joe Kent, who is now under FBI investigation. Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeting that Joe Kent is an American.
Now, he's under FBI investigation, but I'm telling you, here's the problem with the FBI. It's fucking corrupt. Dan Bongino now is part of the deep state. He's a piece of shit. And you had the president of the United States, MAGA, say that the former FBI director is basically a piece of shit dead. So I'm meaning if J. Edgar Hoover was alive today, you know what he'd think about the FBI? He'd be like, oh my God. If Sylvanus Thayer, who is the founder of the Academy, West Point, if he was alive today, he would be like, do you see where we're going? It's all going to shit here. So when someone says the FBI, well, I don't have a lot of respect for the FBI. They're a piece of shit. They're corrupt motherfuckers. So if someone says he's under FBI, well, how about we put the FBI under investigation? Problem is no one's going to be able to do it unless guns and ammo come into place.
American hero, really? Is he, Marjorie? Is he really an American hero?
Well, you know, he served as a military veteran, you piece of shit. And I get it. These military veterans are working for the military industrial complex. But I'd probably still get one of these guys from a piece of shit reporter like you. What have you done, you piece of shit?
In his resignation letter, Kent said he couldn't, quote, in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran, which is really strange because in 2022, the same guy, Joe Kent, tweeted to Donald Trump directly that we can't sit here and wait for the next attack. We should wipe out Iran's ballistic missile capability.
Okay, we're not going to spend so much time on this, but I just wanted to make 2 points. Watch this. Point number 3 is coming on. Military veteran. Again, okay, I don't know what happened behind the scenes here with the FBI leaking, but he quit. The message that he's saying, I'm in agreement with. He is a military veteran. I mean, let's just have a fucking roundtable. Do we respect military veterans or more? And again, I could go either way on this. But this reporter is not a military veteran. But this other guy is, man. This guy's a military veteran. And I'm sure, let me just do this. And I'm sure this guy will back him up.
And in this moment, take a look at this. It is set up. The Director of National Counterterrorism.
So if you know this guy, Greg Kelly, he's a former U.S. Marine. Let's see how a military veteran backs another military veteran like this.
His name is Joe Kent. And with everything going on right now, a patriot would do everything they could to save America.
Yeah, save America, asshole. So that means stop fighting against these globalist corporations, globalist government that you're working for. Why don't you save it, Greg Kelly? Greg Kelly knows about me, and I've said, so Greg Kelly ignores. But let's hear Greg Kelly disparage another military veteran. And it just basically goes to my point. We're splitting. We are not if the military veterans are not unified, what does that say about the country? Of course the country's not unified. We know that.
But not this guy. Joe Kent, in this moment, decided to quit. He quit.
Yeah, in some ways, and so Joe Kelly would probably look at me and say, I quit the FBI. I mean, some of these fucking politicians and FBI, either they should quit or maybe they should get fired. But maybe because most of these people would never quit. Why? They're not doing it for duty, honor, country. They're doing it for a paycheck and a pension. I'm telling you, 99% of these people are doing it. So now he's a quitter. Okay, really? How many people quit? Oh, Greg Kelly, literally, how many people quit the government? No one. I mean, it's literally you have to get fired because no one really quits.
He walked off the job. Are you crazy? What are you doing? They're coming to get us. This is when we need everybody. All right. Maybe he just gave a heads up. I don't know, his mom's sick. Something, right? No, he's quitting right away. From his resignation letter, he's quitting immediately.
So we heard about this. This is just the point. Let's get on to the China thing. Now, what I want to do is there is a person here. I've never worked with him. He's former CIA. In fact, our timeline, his name's Kiriakou. He's on there. Now, I'm going to say, I think politically we are probably off. As sad as it is, I think Kiriakou would call me a racist. It sounds like such a cuck term now, especially as a white man saying, I think you're a racist. It sounds like I think you're a bully. But anyway, I do find him very intelligent and very insightful. That's why I'm showing him. But I do feel like there could be some political elements that we are not aligned. But anyway, let him talk. And this is about Tucker Carlson. And I'm telling you, the only reason Tucker Carlson has a chance now is he's worth a lot of money, which means lawyers. He's got a big audience because this is not about legality or illegality. This is about politics, and he could sway politics. That's what I'm telling you about in terms of Tucker Carlson, where he's in a better stance than me. Meaning he could hire lawyers and he could sway people's public opinion, which Donald Trump, because again, it's not about legality or illegality. It's about his political capital.
That Ted, may I add something too before we jump into the war in Iran?
Mm-hmm.
This was a very bad weekend for Tucker Carlson. People are really.
So you got to remember, Tucker Carlson, if I remember correctly, was sort of the you could say a poster boy for MAGA, and it's not just that. I see a lot of MAGA people like Tucker Carlson's a traitor. How could he do this? And I'm like, how could he do that? Like, what exactly are we talking about? But I do think you can agree that Tucker Carlson, not from me, I'm fine. I think he's going more and more in the right direction. But many people said he had a fall from grace. My question to you, the viewer, is why and how? Why would he fall from grace and how did this happen? Something changed. What? Could it be education? But I'm telling you, he went from a darling, you could say, on the right, MAGA, to now he's getting a lot of heat. And it just shows you how, I guess you could say, how this political apparatus will eat you alive.
Really beating up on Tucker Carlson like never before. And he realized in a Saturday podcast, not even a podcast, just an announcement that he made, that that he had been referred to the Justice Department for criminal prosecution for working for the Iranians. Specifically, he said he
referred
believed,
by whom?
Well, that's the $64,000 question.
Yeah.
Tucker said on Saturday he believed that the CIA had referred him to the Justice Department for prosecution under the Espionage Act. That turned out not to be the case because on Sunday, Laura fucking Loomer announced that she was the one that made the criminal referral to the Justice Department, accusing Tucker of committing espionage for Iran, but specifically for.
There's a reason I want you to listen to this, because I said this in another podcast. The FBI has changed. When I was in the FBI and I was in the National Security Branch, we would never investigate this because it would be considered, it's just not substantial. Now they're going for it. Why? Because they're on a witch hunt. We'll go into it. I mean, it's a short clip and then we'll get to the China one, but this is important. And I've said this, I'm warning you, I'm warning the American people now. When I grew up in America, and you were, because remember, I grew up in America, you're a Democrat, I'm a Republican, not so much different. Because back then, America was the land of milk and honey. That's why Donald Trump would have never won. America, the ship is sinking. We all see it. It is getting violent. It's getting very political. So before, if you were like, I hate the government, screw the government, nothing, who cares, free speech. It's changing, people. And this legality where the FBI is going, I'm telling you, we did not investigate this when we're in the FBI because it just, meaning the FBI is on a witch hunt Same thing with me. There's no crime. I said this many times. Some people have said too, some dumb, stupid fucking Americans, let me do this. It just shows how traitor they are. They're like, David, I think it's time for you to come back to America and turn yourself in, criminal. I said, for what crime? Define the crime, you stupid fuck. Define the crime. And so it's the same thing what's happening to Tucker Carlson. The FBI now is going on a witch hunt, a fishing expedition, and they're trying to get him on crimes that we would never investigate before. What is that crime? He'll say it right here.
For neglecting to register under the FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. She said that because he exchanged emails with Iranian government.
So this is the FARA Act, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. We would never, when I was in the FBI, the cases that I was investigating, the American, now remember, I've always said that I do believe that the FBI has a job when it comes to foreign nationals. We're talking terrorists and spies. Obviously, I work national security, so, whatever the criminal branch is doing, I don't know that much about it. But national security, we have foreign spies and foreign terrorists operating in America, throughout the world against America. The FBI has a job. I wasn't impressed with them, by the way, but they have a job. My issue is what we were spying on U.S. citizens that we didn't have any probable cause for. But this FARA thing, that's not what I was doing. The cases that I was working in the FBI, you would agree. I mean, I'm not going to say it was sort of like Hollywood, but these were legitimate espionage cases. FARA, it's like, what are you talking? We would never, to bring to my supervisor, say, listen, we have this U.S. citizen, this is a political witch hunt, and we think he's working for the Iranian government. First of all, people work for all governments. I mean, people working for the Israeli government. If you ask me, what is the number one foreign entity where people are working, representing, taking money for, that having influence in America? It's not China. It's not Iran. It's not the UK. I would probably say Israel by far. So that's another reason why we would never go there, because the number one target would be Israel. But it's sort of like we don't go for that. It doesn't, because at the end of the day, if you really realize what Tucker was doing, it's bullshit, communicating back and forth, whatever. But we're living in an age now of the American empire collapsing. It's a witch hunt. It's a fishing hunt. They're trying to get anything. It's the same thing like me. If anyone believes I did anything criminally wrong, then what's the charge? Then get it out. Meaning the FBI, spit it out. They can't. They have nothing. They're still on their fishing expedition.
Government officials that showed that he was committing espionage against the United States. Now,
any journalist,
I'm gonna admit to you that I've got a role in this, and this is why I wanted to bring this up. An Iranian contact of mine asked me months ago if I would introduce him to Tucker, because President Pezeshkian wanted to interview him. So I did. I put Tucker in charge with Pezeshkian's office, and they were trying to work out an interview. They ended up having the Iranian foreign minister meet with Tucker in Muscat. And then that was first. And then Tucker interviewed Pezeshkian. This was 6, 7, 8 months ago. So Laura Loomer says, just because he spoke with an Iranian government official means he's guilty of espionage. Now, literally nothing is going to come of this, right? There are dozens of crimes reports that are filed with the Justice Department every single day, and they ignore 99.5% of them. But that's not the issue. There was never any chance that Tucker was going to be prosecuted. The problem is that our system is breaking down. And
I'm going to leave it at that. I highly advise. I've listened to a couple of, I think his name's John Kiriakou. Pretty interesting. But again, he's also one of the few intelligence officers who, well, he's a whistleblower, meaning he's not the normal one. 99% of FBI and CIA people, you know what they do? Yes, sir. Paycheck, pension, follow the orders. Meaning they don't quit, they don't get fired, they don't do whistleblower. I mean, it is what it is. So right off the bat, he's not the normal CIA person. But I've listened to him. Unfortunately, though, I think he's made some comments about racism. And thanks to China, that bus or whatever, that bird, that plane that has flown by, I could care less what people think about racism or this or that. So what we want to do now is let's start talking about China. And we got two videos. We don't have time to go through. I'm going to try to go through quick. And this is about Tucker Carlson. And the other is Louder with Crowder, but it's not on there. It's one of his other guys. And they're talking about China. And they're talking through their asshole. Let's go quick to Tucker Carlson just to dissect this.
Commander-in-Chief, meaning Donald Trump?
Yeah. You get to make the decision. If you were the commander-in-chief of the United States, what would you do at this point as of today?
Commander-in-Chief, meaning Donald.
Okay, so I'm going to say right now, this Chinese guy, he's popped up out of the blue. I think, Shane, you've mentioned him. I've listened to a couple of videos. And again, you shoot the message, not the messenger. Is he working for the Chinese government, getting paid? Oh, I'm not going to doubt that at all. But that still doesn't change my point. I look at the message. From what he's saying, I find him to be a very educated person. I can't put my finger on him yet. I haven't listened to all of it, but we're listening now. But the first thing is, David, do you think this guy's working for the Chinese government? I guess so. I mean, people working, meaning it is important to know who you're working for. It is, because you're going to be influenced. Just like Fox News and CNN are both working for the corporations. I mean, they're all paid actors in some sense. So it is very important to know if someone is getting money, there's influence. I agree with that. I'm just going to make the immediate assumption that the Chinese government is paying him money. But does that change my mind? I still would focus on the message. If the message is off, trust me, I will say it's off.
Donald Trump?
Yeah. You get to make the decision. What does America do next? If it's acting in its own interest, if it's trying to preserve its power and wealth at this point, what does it do?
Well, first of all, I would acknowledge that all these events are interconnected, right? So this trade war with China, this war in Ukraine, this war in the Middle East, it's all interconnected because the American empire is too overstretched and it has its fingers on everything. And so it allows its enemies to provoke it into these never-ending wars. So what I would do is basically sit down everyone, okay, including Russia, China, Iran, and say, it's time for a new world order where we.
So the way I look at that is, people, I know it sounds like America surrendering, and I'm not saying I necessarily would do that, China, but I'm telling you, to the Americans, this ship is sinking. It's going to be a soft landing or a hard landing. And I get it. I know Americans are like, bullshit, man. We're never going to give space to China. We're always going to be the global world power. Well, then sign up your kids to die for these wars and you pay your taxes. But there are more and more Americans that we have bigger problems at home. We don't have children. We can't feed our children. We have this, and we don't care about being the world superpower. The American globalist corporations do. So I would say that. Now he's saying about, well, we got to get together. A new world order is coming. You like it or not. How it forms is going to be varied, but it's going that way. I'll do it. If we have time, I'll talk more about China. It is what it is. What I don't believe, though, and I've said many times, China is not going to be the new global superpower like America. That ain't going to happen.
We are partners in this relationship, right? Before America was the hegemon, before the US dollar was the world reserve currency. But now what we want to do is open a dialogue where everyone is respected, where America is no longer the bully, but a willing partner in creating a new economic order that benefits everyone and not just a few.
And I get it. This sounds like kind of utopian bullshit. I know, like it's rules and we're doing. I would just say, like it or not, the power is going to be shifted, and we're going to have to learn to share that power. It's going to suck for America because America's going to go down and other countries are going to come up. But what if it's like, this is going to be the new utopian and everyone's going to have fun? I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, if you look at history, powers shift. And we are about to do a power shift. Unfortunately, we as Americans are going to lose power. Other countries are going to gain power. You don't like it, then what are you going to do? Go to war? Then you sign up for the draft. I'm not dying for this country anymore. Raise your taxes? I don't pay tax money anymore. You pay your taxes. So we can do this the hard way or the easy way. That's the way it's going.
I think that's the wisest possible advice and probably the only path that preserves civilization. But the one country standing in the way of that is Israel, which is the only beneficiary of this war, as you just said. I think that's true. Can you think of another beneficiary other than Israel of this war?
Well, Russia benefits, right? Because Russia is trying to win this war in Ukraine.
That's correct.
And America is forced to lift oil sanctions.
Well, China is also benefiting because why? I mean, China, like I said, China sits back. We're spending more money on this war. They're also able to study our tactics. Also, soft power. People are starting to look at China now as, wow, look at this peaceful country. So China's also winning it. Again, the whole reason we're in this, generally speaking, is Israel. And so if you're MAGA, you have got to really look in the mirror and reevaluate what exactly is America first. This war, and I was about to say in Israel, this war with Iran, not exactly America first.
And so now Russia is now able to take all these war profits, right, and then help the Iranians, finance the Iranians in the struggle against the Americans and the Israelis. So the Russians also benefit tremendously from this war.
Yeah, but fair point. Israel has to be constrained by the United States in order to do what you just recommended it do. Is that possible? Does the American president have the authority to control its client state?
So if you look at the domestic situation in Israel, Israel no longer behaves rationally. It is sort of overtaken by eschatological fever, right? So if you look at videos coming out of Israel, there are rabbis going around saying that this war in the Middle East, even though it's destroying Tel Aviv, it's good for us because this will lead to the coming of our Messiah. So they believe that it is when Israel.
And this is where I believe there's two types of Americans that are working for Israel. One is just for the money, meaning they'll work for Israel today, they'll work for China tomorrow. It's all about the money. But there are these Christian Zionists who they're also on board. And I think it's a very simple thing. And this would be to the Jews, to the Israelis, whatever these Americans. If Israel was such our good ally and they want us to give them money and die for these wars, then let us have citizenship in Israel. Let's make Israel or whatever your dual citizenship, so you're an American, you can immigrate there. Wouldn't that be stronger sense to say we're brothers? And if they did it, I would change my mind a lot of ways. But if they said, fine, the territory of Israel now is America and you can move there, it's a 51st state. I mean, we're brothers. We give them money. They want us to die for them. So you want us as Americans to die for you, Israel, and you're not even going to give me a passport? Good luck. If you're not Jewish, you're not going to get it. Doesn't make sense, people. Doesn't make sense.
Is under the most strain. When the very existence of Israel is threatened, then God will intervene because the Jewish people will come together as a nation again and commit themselves, renew their faith in God. And once God sees the blind, trusting, absolute faith of the Jewish people, then he will save his people by sending his Messiah, who will then redeem the Jewish people. So another way of saying this is secular temporal matters don't really matter. This war in the Middle East, not an issue. What matters is divinity. What matters is our relationship with God.
Yes.
So what matters is faith. If nuclear bombs go flying, doesn't really matter.
It's what's so interesting is that, 25 years ago at 9/11, whatever you think of how that happened and why, there was, I saw it personally.
Let me tell you the story here. Shane, here's the story. This is what really got me. Let me just tell the story now on 9/11. I'll tell it maybe another time. This is when I knew something was weird. So I was the FBI 9/11 classes. This is the push. And I did not work counterterrorism. And so the FBI is the lead agency for counterterrorism. So tip of the spear, you hear all these special operations, tip of the spear, tip of the spear. News to you, the tip of the spear is in the private sector, okay? Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, CIA, FBI, news to you, the tip of the spear is in the private sector. Okay, I altered here. Let's go back. So, but for the government, it is the FBI when it comes to counterterrorism. Now, also, too, this is 9/11. This is probably one of the most pinnacle times in America's history where counterterrorism was such a big push in terms of money, management, efforts. Again, it's 9/11. And so what's interesting was there was the floor above me, there was the counterterrorism squad, and I was in a regionally enhanced office. These guys were top notch. I knew one of the guys up there. He's a West Point grad who served 6 years in the Ranger Regiment. So anyone knows about the military, he wasn't just a Ranger tabbed. He was in the regiment as an officer. It's a pretty big deal. He got out and he was in the FBI. He was in the FBI for 5 years, which is considered what's called a journeyman agent. So, and he's working counterterrorism. So what I'm saying is, and I'll tell you, so I had the opportunity, I went to talk to him. So, and again, this is 9/11 time, it's 2004, but it's the whole 9/11 war on terror. If you could meet a person who's as expertise at that, West Point grad, former Army Ranger, FBI counterterrorism, working that he was in there like for 5 or 6 years in that. That's a pretty good audience, or not an audience, a pretty good source to say the one question. And part of leadership is you always want to ask why. Like even me, David, why am I on here? A good question is, you hear about this guy, David Baumblatt? He's on this social media. Why is he on social media? Why? It allows you to answer. Like, I don't even want to be here. It's like, why am I on here? Well, why aren't the politicians answering me? Let's go in there. But a great question to ask for 9/11, and I didn't know. And I've always said this, I'm not a Middle Eastern expert. I didn't work counterterrorism, but I did have a question, and that question was, why'd they do it? Right? I mean, it's just not normal to fly airplanes in buildings, or start a war. I mean, these are major things. And to understand leadership when you're trying to work, whether it's espionage or military tactics or whatever, or response, you have to understand the enemy. And a question is why? And that was the one question I had, because people see on the news, the terrorists, and I was like, why did they do this? I still didn't know. And I contacted him. I said, hey, man, I'm heading up the flight of stairs. I said, I got to ask you a question. He was in a skiff. He came out. He's talking to me. And again, he's working counterterrorism at a very elite squad. I said, hey, man, I got to tell you. Now, I didn't know him at West Point. He's an older guy. In fact, I didn't even know him in the military. He's in the Ranger Regiment. But we're in the same office. And we knew each other for about 6 months on. I said, this is a great opportunity. Introduce, boom. I said, I got to ask you something. You work counterterrorism. I said, why did they do this? Now, the answer he gave me, even back then, I was smart enough to realize I was a little disappointed. Now, when I tell you this answer, you would probably be like, oh my God, please, David, please tell me this is not true. Please tell me that he said something different. This is what he told me. I said, why did they do this? He looked at me and he's very, very staunch, very like back in the Ranger Regiment. He goes, they did it because they hate the way we live. They hate our life. They hate our freedom. You almost hear that a lot from white supremacists. They always say white supremacists, they hate. Most white supremacists I know, they just want to get the fuck away. They just want to get away from black people. I've never met a person that really has, even me, people would say I'm a white supremacist, and yet I have lived more and studied more with the Chinese people, where the typical white liberal would be like, I can't take those gooks. I don't want to live with those gooks. I live with gooks every day. They're not as bad as you think. But anyway, we've heard this too with white supremacy. Like, why do they do it? Hate. Like, it's like, forget the war on terror, the war on hate. And he told me that. And even back then, because again, I was still new to the FBI. He's the expert. And even back then, I was expecting a little bit more, but okay. And I was like, because they hate our way of life. They hate freedom. Now, you hear after the war on terror, I mean, I guess we didn't win the war on terror. We're still doing with Iran. They would be considered part of this global war on terror. That's the answer we have from the FBI. This is what it is. Oh, my God, it's bullshit. And then, like I said, if you think about 9/11, we don't know what the fuck happened. Then you're telling me you know what happened in World War II? Like, you're the expert on Adolf Hitler. You're the expert on the Holocaust. You're the expert on the Nazis. Oh, yeah, that's it. But I still do not believe we know the truth on 9/11. And I still remember he said that, but I was new to the FBI and I'm like, okay, he's like, yeah, I guess, I should believe. But I still remember I was a little disappointed. I was expecting a little bit more data points, a little bit more epiphany, like, wow, I didn't realize that. I didn't connect the dots. And they're like, dude, they just hate the way we live. They hate our freedom. I'm like, all right, well, I guess why aren't they bombing other people or stuff like that? Anyway, we'll go back to this. But like I said, I think our United States government has fucking sold us down the road. And now they're attacking Tucker. You got to ask yourself, Tucker, who I think has become more and more speaking the truth, especially you could say the far right or the nationalists, Tucker's in danger. The only thing I think Tucker is in good standing, and he's already said it, he's got a shitload of money. He already said he is ready to hire the lawyers that he needs, and he's got a big social platform. Because I'm telling you, this government now, legality and illegality is second. Number one is politics, like with me. And Tucker has a lot of political clout to sway, and Donald Trump knows it. So Donald Trump is realizing, one, this guy could assemble a gang of lawyers that most of us would never can afford. And two, he's got a pretty big social media platform that could sway politics if all of a sudden Tucker Carlson, like me, I'm arrested, sent in jail. That's why I'm not going back to America. I have no faith in the system. I go back to America, get sent in jail, goodbye, end of story. Boop. Tucker gets arrested, sent to jail. Not so easy to hide that story. Not so easy. I think there's going to be a lot of, and again, with his money, he's going to have lawyers too. He'll probably have fucking social media communications also doing it. So what I'm trying to say is Tucker is not the normal person. I'm still not saying you want to go up against this machine called the American government, but Tucker isn't the normal person. And I do think that is unbelievably to his advantage to protect him. A normal person, yeah, you're done. I don't think people realize this whole thing about, well, as long as you don't do anything illegal, you have nothing. It's the same thing about privacy, right? They always say, I don't mind the government spying on me. As long as you don't do anything illegal, I got nothing to hide. Yeah, send that guy to Guantanamo Bay for all we care.
A political Islam. There were Wahhabists. There were a lot of Islamic radicals around the world. And for a bunch of reasons over 25 years, that hasn't disappeared. There still exist Islamic radicals, but it's not, an important political force anymore. At the same time, as Islam in general has become much more moderate, and the GCC is kind of the most obvious example of this, there has been a rise of Jewish Wahhabism and evangelical Christian Wahhabism, so to speak. I mean, you've seen this eschatological extremism among some American Protestants, Christians.
We're going to skip a little. I want to see if we get to China.
And a lot of them are Christian Zionists. So they believe that Israel is crucial, the linchpin to achieving God's plan and the return of Jesus. And so a very prominent figure that you probably know very well is John Hagee, who runs something called the Christians Unite for Israel. It's 7 million members. And these are the people who are financing a lot of the conflict in the Middle East, in Israel, because they're the ones who are funding West Bank settlements. And so Christian Zionism, it is an extremely powerful political force in America.
Yeah, and I mentioned that. I believe the Christian Zionists may not be doing this for money. It's their religion. So like I said, I believe there's two main entities that are backing Israel. One is just purely the money. They're paid. They're working for a foreign entity. They should be, technically, the FBI should be investigating them and arresting them on the far up. For instance, AIPAC. But I believe, and again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I believe these Christian Zionists, it could quite possibly have nothing to do with money. I mean, I don't know whether Christians, something about the Bible with Israel, we have to protect them. I mean, these people. So for that, it might not have to do anything about money. It could be religious.
So your question is, how did this happen? And
yes,
the issue is that this is a plan that has been in motion for centuries, and it's a very complicated history, but it involves different religious groups among the Jews, Septim Francus, Shabbat Lubavitch, which you've talked about, but it also involves the Freemasons, the Knights Templars, the Rosicrucians. It involves the Jesuits. So you have these different secret societies, different religious organizations working together through the centuries to achieve this plan for the end of the world, which heralds the Messianic age. Okay. And there are different components of this plan, but the basic components are: one is the creation of the nation state of Israel, which happened in 1948. And then you need to have the building of the third temple, which requires the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is actually which could happen during this war, given what we've seen so far. So the Israelis have closed off the Al-Aqsa Mosque, as well as other religious sites like the Church of Holy Sepulchre, to tourists these past few days. There's rumors that for the past 2 years, the Israelis have been conducting these archaeological digs under the Al-Aqsa Mosque to basically destroy the foundations of the mosque, so that they can conduct a controlled demolition of the mosque and blame it on a missile strike from the Iranians. And there's actually talk among the Israelis of using this plan to ignite a war between the Arabs and the Persians. So the Al-Aqsa Mosque needs to be destroyed for the third temple. They also talk about this war of Gog and Magog between Israel and the entire world. Then the coming of the Jewish Messiah, the creation of the Greater Israel Project, the return of all Jews from the diaspora.
We'll go more. I mean, it's very interesting that, like I said, there's something going on that's a bigger level too, in terms of religious aspect, that it's not just for money, but most Americans, we are in the dark of what's going on. But you know what's not in the dark? Your tax money and these dead soldiers coming back in body bags. So we continue to support an effort. And I say this is the problem. We continue to support some type of effort going on in the Middle East with Israel that Americans are not in the know. We don't know what's going on. Is this purely for money? Is this for religious? It could be, but you don't know and I don't know. But guess what? Your tax money continues to go and these dead soldiers keep coming back until more and more Americans like me say, no, I'm not paying my tax money and I'm not going in the military. And until that stops, I mean, if Americans continue to pay your tax money and continue to enlist in the military, then it's probably no reason for it to stop.
He's manipulated behind the scenes by people around him. And, you know, when reporters asked him, like, why is this war in Iran happening? He did say that his advisors, which include.
So now he's talking about Donald Trump. This is pretty interesting. I got to admit, I don't know much about this Chinese guy, but he is pretty sharp, though, I have to admit.
Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Peter Hegseth, Marco Rubio told him that the Iranians were so close to getting a nuclear weapon and that the Iranians were going to attack first. And so I was basically misled. And I think that's probably true, in that Trump surrounds himself with certain people that have a certain political eschatological agenda. So that's one possibility, that he's just an actor. Another possibility is that he himself has a messianic calling. Okay. And what I mean by that is, if you go back to January 2021, he was politically dead, right? Because the January 6th riots happened. He was impeached twice. And then after he left office, there was lawfare conducted against him, and he went bankrupt. So it was as though the entire world went against him. But now he's president of the United States. And so how would he personally understand this? I think a lot of it is God has asked him to serve. There's a call to serve, and he has to fulfill a mission. But what this mission is, okay? What this mission is, whether it's to save Israel, whether it's to save America, whether it's a part of a grander scheme, only he in his heart knows. And I think no one except him knows, okay? So I think that's another possibility. And the third possibility is that this is all Israel's doing. Netanyahu is the one who's forced him into this sort of situation because the Israelis attacked first. And Marco Rubio said this, where, you know what, we wanted these negotiations, but the Israelis were planning to attack. If they attacked, the Iranians would be compelled to attack both the Americans and the Israelis. And we did not want to put our soldiers in harm's way, so we attacked with the Israelis. Okay, so it's possible this all Netanyahu and all his machinations. Another fourth possibility is they have co-opted him. Like there's blackmail on him. There's and he has absolutely no choice but to do what he says because he's.
It's a pretty good analysis, I have to admit. I mean, this guy, and who knows where this guy is getting his intelligence from. And I think it's positive. So the question from Tucker, we'll just read it. Why did Donald Trump go to war? And one, he got bad advice from his advisors, Jared Kushner, number one. Two, he feels like he has this messianic destiny. Who knows? I mean, that shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania, whether there's still FBI lacking investigation on that, but it is true in terms of Donald Trump. Even me, I mean, he's a once in a lifetime president. So he might feel like there's some type of calling, or, he's doing this for Israel, or maybe there's some blackmail, because anyone with common sense knows these Epstein files, absolutely ridiculous. Anyone, I mean, it reminds me of like when I said before, where Director Wray, all these directors, FBI's are all corrupt. When Director Wray did not say the southern border is a national security and we need to seal the southern border, you as a common American citizen would be like, that's weird. That's off. Why wouldn't the FBI say that's a national security threat? Well, now here we are with Kash Patel. This guy needs to go back to India. We got Kash Patel and the Epstein files. Nah, not too important. Are you kidding me? I've never seen, in my life, in your life, you'll never see something like that on public display. And the FBI, you know as well as I do, most people, we don't have time to dissect that all information or to connect the various dots. We don't have the resources. This is where the FBI, that's not a priority. The only thing I could come up to is something's in there that's compromising Donald Trump. So in terms of that analysis, I thought it was pretty interesting. Let's finish this up. It's only a couple minutes.
Compromised in a certain way, and maybe his family is under threat. So all four are possibilities. And quite honestly, I have no idea which possibility is the most correct.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does, and I've really tried to keep speculation to a minimum. You always want to believe that people's motives are transparent, that they state why they're doing what they're doing. But of course, you can never know what's inside a man, right? Even in yourself, it's hard to know your own motives very often. So I think that's a wise take. People seem to be more inflamed.
1 second. So what we're going to do here is, I had one more video. We'll do it next time, and this is where we're going to focus on China. But the way we're looking at it is this, again, with China. When people start talking about China, where are they coming from? What is their experience? We've already been in a current war in Iran, and I'm saying my prediction with Iran, it's either going to be worse or embarrassing. Worse means we're going to go in more. We're going to bomb more. We're going to put troops on the ground, and man, that's not going to be good. Or embarrassing. And what do I mean by that? Donald Trump may sporadically say, okay, we won, and we pull out, and everyone's just like, okay, because it's not good. I mean, we've just made more enemies. We wasted money. So I really think two things are going to happen with Iran. Either he's just going to say mission accomplished, whatever, and we're going to pull out. But there's going to be a lot of negative effects. Or he may double down, and good luck with that. I'm just happy I'm not in the military anymore. But what I do want to emphasize this, when I mentioned about China before, we're falling apart from within. So I mentioned about Joe Kent, you could say a very decorated military veteran. And I think he did the right thing. His values weren't aligned with Trump. He quit. Whether he was forced out because he was under investigation, I don't know. I'm not going to say I'll put that against him. But military veterans, boom, they tore this guy apart. Now we got Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, where I've said many times, I think he's going more and more into the light. And what happens out of MAGA? Boom, he's working for the Iranian government. Oh, yeah, that's how it is. And what I'm trying to tell you is before you think about China, which is still a threat, you are going to see more and more stuff in America where we're falling apart. But watch Tucker Carlson, how that's going. And even Joe Kent, how they're treating a fellow military veteran. And just ask yourself, we have so many problems going on in America. Why are we even, like the next video that I was going to show you, we'll show next time about China. You have these influencers that are just so much into talking negatively about China, which is fine. But it's like, dude, why don't you care more about taking care of American military veterans or sealing the borders? You know what I'm saying? Meaning taking care of American issues first, and then by all means we can look abroad. But again, you're going to start seeing more and more. And like I said, this whole war with Iran, anyone with common sense knows this was not MAGA, meaning this wasn't what was sold as America first. Anyone with common sense knows it. So what's happening? This ship is deviating, people, and it's going to start swinging left and right. It's going to get worse. Let me see any more comments. Until then, let me see here. Till then, I appreciate your time. The next video, we'll go into depth about the China video. It's already been an hour, so we won't go into it. David Baumblatt from Terrabin Leadership telling the Patriots, I appreciate your support. Lead to victory.